How you doing? And I really mean that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to ask you to think about anything below 5 being not so good. And I want you to get a number for yourself where you're at right now. I want you to put it in your pocket, and we're going to look at it later. And it'll be sort of like an emotional card trick. So every day I get to talk to kids, teachers, schools, parents about my 2 favorite topics, and that's resiliency skills and powerful technology use. But sometimes I get to be a spellbinder. And a spellbinder is someone who goes into the schools and gets to tell stories to kids. And over the last 20 years, I've been able to tell hundreds of stories to thousands of kids. And my stories always go like this. Once upon a time, they lived happily ever after. Sometimes it's happier ever after. And that's because I've never talked to a human who hasn't wanted to be happy and joyful. And I work with teenagers, so that's saying something. And I really do believe that for humans, happiness and joy is really important to be healthy. My mother also told stories, and my mother's stories were very different than mine. They're about the people in our world, and it always started sort of the same way. They had this much potential. She did, he did. And then she'd tell stories about what happened to them, the traumas, the stressors, and as she did, their potential seemed to diminish a bit. And I knew all the people that she was talking about, and she was accurate, but I didn't like these stories, because there was no place for happier ever after. In fact, the people in our world, it sounded like they were hobbled by things that had happened that they had no control over. Well, thank God for Ann Lowe. Ann Lowe was our neighbor, and my mother, when she told her story, she said Ann Lowe had vast amounts of potential. And then she had the stories, because Ann had a very hard life. So she'd tell the stories of stressors and traumas, but it didn't seem to hobble Ann. They impacted her, but she still functioned very highly. And I was enamored by Ann. I loved her. I stayed around her as much as possible. I tried to emulate her because I loved what she had. And in time, I understood that that was resiliency. So that's what I want to talk about, is resiliency, that Ann taught me about. And you may have heard some of this stuff before, but I'm hoping that the storyteller in me is going to tell it in an order that will help it be simple and effective for you. So I'm going to start off talking about the 2 parts of the brain that are most impacted and have most to do with resiliency, these areas. I put a nice barrette here for you to know this one. And so we're going to start with the one that's most interested in danger. And we know this as fight or flight. So if right now, it's kind of dark back there, but if I think that maybe there's a bear that might be coming my way, like not your way, but I feel like it's coming my way, my brain is going to activate my fight or flight system. And I hope you remember 2 things from what I'm going to say. This one is one of them, activate. When we activate our brain takes energy from all over the brain, and it's a finite amount of energy, and puts it someplace. And in fight or flight, it borrows a lot from our cognition and our relationship skills. And that's okay, because I have to fight or fight that bear. I don't care about those other things. Theoretically, as soon as I know that I'm safe, like maybe as the bear gets closer, it's not a bear, it's this really cute Pomeranian, so maybe we're okay. As soon as I feel safe, theoretically, I'm able to activate this part of the brain. And we want to activate this part of the brain. This is where everything we love and hope for happens. It's where nurturing happens. It's where generosity and kindness and compassion and love. It's where community and collaboration and learning, problem solving. It's where inspiration and innovation and creativity and mastery and fun and funny and contentment and joy happen. We want this activated when we are safe. And I really think that my mother's stories were all about dysregulation. And dysregulation is when because our brains are super hyper vigilant about safety, our brains sometimes will activate the fight or flight system when we are safe. And that's called dysregulation. So that's the second thing I hope you remember. So dysregulation is when we activate the fight or flight system, pull that energy back, and we're safe. And this happens all the time. It happens when we're sitting in the safety of our couch, drinking coffee in the morning, and we see a headline. It happens when I was driving here, going down Broadway, going like 47, because I could, and there's a guy in front of me going 25 miles an hour, and he's really happy, and I dysregulate. Was I safe? I was going 25. I was safe. So I really do believe that my mother's stories were about dysregulation because they were about potential being diminished by stressors and traumas. And the things we know about stressors and traumas is that the more that we have, the more severe they are, the more unexpected they are, the more they add to the hypervigilance of the brain. And so we dysregulate more frequently and more powerfully for longer periods of time. And so if I am frequently activating fight or flight, it means I don't have a lot of access to my frontal lobe, my cognition, and my relationship skills. So I'm going to underfunction. I'm not going to be as functional as I could be. And so the motion is just a movement of energy from here to here. So this would be activated in dysregulation when we're safe, and this would be regulation when we're safe. But humans, for some reason, have always thought this was sort of an enigma, like a mystery, like the weather. So we wake up in the morning, it's like, I'm anxious. Dang, wonder when this is going to clear up. But now, when we've had a lot of brain science that has been able to show us that we can actually move the energy in our brain. And so I want to give you this one exercise that we can't do here because you have to be super mad when you're doing it. And I hope you're not super mad. So this is the kind of thing when you're just sitting around and you're in a really good mood, and then all of a sudden you're just hot. You pop hot. You're mad. I do this frequently in the presence of my brother. Family can do it to us. And so the next time you pop hot when you're on your own, what I want you to do is do some math, sort of challenging math in your head, not pen and paper. And what we've seen is that when someone's dysregulated, there's a lot of neural activity here, and we challenge the frontal lobe, it will move. The energy will move, and we will be able to regulate. One of the reasons that I'm almost zealous about this topic is that we're the first humans ever to have to integrate technology into our minds, into our relationships, into our children's development. And we know a few things now, because we've been doing this for about 12, 15 years. We know that technology is giving amazing things to us. We also know it's not going anywhere. And we also know that we haven't gotten much instruction on how to do this well, and especially how to navigate it with kids. We also know that technology is kicking our, I think I can say butts, but it's kicking our asses. We know that we're functioning lower cognitively, socially, and emotionally, almost in perfect tandem with the amount of time and influence we have with technology. And that's because technology dysregulates us in many, many ways. one of the most, the one I hate the most, and I don't say hate very often, is that the people that want to profit, and I don't mean like Etsy profit, I mean like profit, the people that want to profit mightily, they need our time and attention. And in order to get our time and attention to just stay on our devices, they dysregulate us, and they activate more of the negative emotions in us. So that would be anger, fear, hate of others, hate of self, apathy. And so we just slowly get more dysregulated. So we always had the issue of stressors and traumas, and now we have technology that's also adding to our functioning ability. So what we have to do, I believe, is to have the reboot. I like to call it the Ann Lowe reboot, because she used to do this. And the first step of the reboot is that we have to be aware that we have activated our fight or flight system. This is something that we're not really good at. It's almost like we have Novocaine back there, and we don't notice for a while that we've been angered or scared or afraid. And so I wish that there was something like that. It was a physical manifestation that could show us that we'd activated the fight or flight system. Like, I'd like our noses to be able to like flash green, because then we know. And it would be super helpful when we're on technology, because we'd know when we're being manipulated, we would know when we needed to get out of a site, we know when we need to get off the device. But I don't think the flashing green thing is a real thing. So we're going to have to go back to that 1 to 10 that we did, which is we have to become more aware how we're doing at all times, and with the 5 and below being dysregulated. And so if we can be aware of when we've activated fight or flight, then the second thing we need to do very quickly is to check and see if we're in danger, because we've activated fight or flight. If we have, then, if we're not in danger, if we're in danger, we need to take care of it. If we're not in danger, what we need to do is the third thing, and we need to desire to be here, that section that we really want to be in. And then lastly, we want to have the skills to be able to regulate. And all of us have a bag full of skills, I promise you. Any hobby you have, any activity you do, the people you love, the dogs you love. Oh, the dog's gone. Those things help keep us here. But we're going to do an exercise where we actually try to walk our energy up, because we can. So I'm horribly, except that it's right before lunch, so I think it's okay. I'm going to ask you to stand. And I'm going to ask you to sway. Because when we sway, we're going to tell this part of our brain, so this is where we're working at, we're going to tell this part of our brain that we are as safe as a baby in arms. Our heart rate's going to go down, our breath's going to get deep, and the fight or flight is going to loosen up a little bit so that we can go to the next part. So keep swaying, because it's just so nice. Making me a little seasick, but it's so nice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to activate the nurturing part of our brain. The easiest way to regulate, the easiest way to move the energy out is to nurture something. Because for survival reasons, if we are nurturing something, we can't be in fight or flight. Because if we are, we might kick the puppy. I said kick the puppy. Yes, we don't want to kick the puppy. And so when we nurture, we instantly pop out of fight or flight, and we get a tiny bit of endorphin, dopamine, to make us be rewarded for nurturing. And then we're going to do the last two activities at the same time. And what we're going to do, oh, no, I forgot what the nurturing thing was. This is actually the Oprah moment. This is when, through a big grant through, I think, the Western Colorado Community Foundation, at our feet all of us have, and just do this in one big swoop. We're going to scoop up, come on, scoop it up, our invisible puppy. We have a puppy, and I want you to look at it because it's so cute, and these were very expensive. So, and you're going to say, "Aw." As soon as we did, we activated our nurturing part of our brain. So now we're moved to here, and we're going to move here. And when we move here, what we're going to do is we're going to try to solidify and strengthen our sense of community. We've gathered together, so we have a pretty strong sense of community. But we're going to join our voices. And we don't do that very often anymore. Some people sing, some people cheer. We're going to howl. We're going to howl because I got to choose, and it was a no-brainer, because how often do you get to howl in public? So we're going to howl. And then finally what we're going to do is as we howl, we're going to use our highest part of our brain, is we're going to send out an intention to our community that the regulation skills and the resiliency that we are going to practice here is going to go out to our children, our schools, our places of work, so that our community functions a little higher, so, it can be live happily ever after, right? So we're going to rock. We're going to hold that puppy. Put that puppy back up there, because that puppy is right there. And we're going to, when I say 3, we're going to howl, and we're going to put an intention for higher functioning in our community. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. How are you feeling now? Thank you.